Welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going over the newest patch coming to Smite, patch 5.11, Life and Death, and of course we have the new god, Baron Samedi, long awaited. Everyone wants to play him. Obviously he's just cool. Look at the guy. Obviously the first god in the Voodoo Pantheon, so we just had the Slavic come out with Chernobog, now we already got the Voodoo, and we're going to have a Polynesian in a couple more patches. So his kit is super unique. We have abilities that we've never seen before, and then even a passive that we never really seen before. The closest thing I could describe his passive to would be Ratatasker's passive, and even then it's nothing like it. So it's called Hysteria. The first part of it is Baron's Brew, and what this is an item in the shop that if you have a Baron Samedi on your team, anybody can buy this potion. You can buy it if you're Baron Samedi, all 4 of your teammates, or all 2 of them, depending on what game mode you're playing. Basically, if there's a Baron on your team, you can buy this. And what it does, it costs 150 gold, and it gives you 140 health and 100 mana over 20 seconds, and there's it's like a 3-charge chalice. So, not bad. Just kind of another little thing added to the passive, and that's the Ratatasker thing I was talking about, how he can buy his acorn in the store. But even then, it's not really similar. But the actual passive, I guess, is called Hysteria, and it's a debuff that you apply to your enemies. So every basic attack will apply to Hysteria. Each ability applies a different unique amount depending on what ability it is. And all of his abilities have a new effect on enemies with at least 30 Hysteria. And all of his abilities deal more damage if the target has 70, which is the max. And if they're at the max, they take 25% more damage from Baron Samedi. So basically you want to focus up and get max Hysteria on somebody. So enemies hit with Baron have Hysteria applied. Baron's abilities interact with Hysteria to provide bonus effects. So yeah, we'll get into the bonus ones. So his first ability is called Vivid Gaze, and this ability is unique. I'll describe the way it looks. So basically you have 2 targeters, and they cross. So you'll have one here and one here, and eventually they intersect, and you can adjust how close or how far. So if you're far away, they'll intersect and meet. But if you're super close, they'll intersect right away and then keep going. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense, it's kind of hard to explain. You'll probably have to go check out the patch notes to actually get an idea of what I'm talking about. But basically, 2 animated skulls come out, both which briefly charge before hitting enemies with voodoo magic that deals damage. So 2 skulls, just boom, beam of light, really. The beam meets at a crossroads of Baron Samedi's choosing. Enemies hit by both beams take 15% damage on the second hit. So if you manage to get both hits on a target, the first one's going to deal max damage, but the second one's going to fall off significantly. So that's a common theme in Smite, though. If the enemy god is hit above 30 Hysteria, their physical power, magical power, and attack speed are reduced. So that's the bonus effect that if you apply it to 30% or 30 Hysteria, then obviously if you're at max Hysteria, you're just dealing bonus damage. So the damage is 90 to 290 plus 60% of your magical power, and then obviously it falls off with the second hit. Power reduction is 30%, and so is the attack speed reduction. So if you manage to have 30 Hysteria applied on that target, and you hit Vivid Gaze, 30% power reduction, 30% attack speed reduction. So whenever you hit a beam, it's going to apply 10 Hysteria. So each basic attack applies 2 Hysteria. Vivid Gaze is going to apply 10 per beam, so you can get up to 20. Mana cost is 55 to 75 with a 9-second cooldown. Second ability is called Conzen Spirits, something like that. Baron Samedi wrestles spirits to the ground and buries them. After a brief delay, the ground erupts, damaging enemies standing in the area. Think of this as Izanami's ultimate. It literally looks just like that, almost. So think of it like that. If an enemy god is hit, friendly spirits fly from the area and heal allies near the explosion or by Baron Samedi. So if you hit this ability, you're going to heal some allies, which is really cool. And the heal is 40 to 140 on scaling, plus 10% of your magical power, plus 15% of their missing health. So if they're super low, they're going to get healed even more. If the enemy god is above 30 Hysteria, so the minimum threshold, the friendly spirits now also cleanses slows and makes allies immune to slows and increases their movement speed. So you hit this ability, it's going to deal damage, obviously, it's going to heal some allies. If you're at 30 Hysteria, it's still going to heal, but it's going to cleanse them of any slow they have. It's going to make them slow immune for a brief period of time, and it's going to increase their movement speed. So their movement speed will be increased by 20 up to 40% at max rank, which is crazy. And this also applies 20 Hysteria. So the damage is 70 to 290 plus 70% of your magical power, so decent scaling on there. We already went over the heal, movement speed. It does cost 75 mana, and the cooldown goes down on this. Starts at 15 and goes down to 11 seconds. So I'm still not quite sure what his lane clear ability would be, because this definitely isn't the lane clear. We'll get into this. I guess it would have to be this one, but I don't know. It's definitely not that. I don't think it would be. I don't know. We'll have to see in game and kind of practice. Wrap it up. Think of this. And I was going to say Anubis, but no, it's completely different. Again, his kit is so unique. So basically, he throws his snake forward, wrapping an enemy god hit and dealing damage every 0.5 seconds for 4 seconds, and slowing them until they are rooted. Now, if the god is above 30 Hysteria, so that minimum threshold, the snake will also lash out at nearby enemy gods who stand too close after 1 second. So, if you throw the snake at an enemy god and they are at that 30 Hysteria threshold, you're going to see this little targeter around them, kind of like Cupid in his heart bomb. You see that targeter where you're going to get hit with that radius? It looks like that. And after 1 second, any enemy who remains in that radius, that snake is going to also apply to them and deal damage to them. Now, enemies hit by this are injected with the venom that slows them until they are rooted, so same with the first initial hit, and deals the same amount of damage, but instantly rather than 4 seconds. So let's say you throw the snake at somebody, and they're going to take, like, I don't know, 20 damage, 20 damage, 20 damage, 20 damage, like that. If it applies to another person, they're just going to take, like, I don't know, 100 damage right off the bat rather than it stacking. So really cool. And this is going to be your main source of building up Hysteria, because your basic attacks don't do a whole lot. They do 2. This does 10 or 20 depending if you hit both. This does 20, but this one can get you pretty much up to max Hysteria almost instantly, because it's 5 per tick, so up to 40, which is really nice. So you can get to that threshold right away with this. So the damage per tick is 10 to 42 plus 5% of your magical power. The slow duration is 1.75 seconds, and that also roots you for 0.75 seconds. Mana cost is 60 to 80, and the cooldown is 12 seconds. So his kit, so unique. There's not an ability. We've never seen abilities like this. Between the way Vivid Gaze interacts with the targeter, the closest thing I could describe Vivid Gaze would be Kali's Blades. That kind of reminds me of the targeter a little bit. The Wrap It Up is unique, and the ultimate is sick. He is CC immune, so that's cool, and he can move in it, which is cool. So I'll basically describe it, and then we'll read it. Basically, he just brings up a coffin from the ground, and you have this large cone in front of it. Like, it's a pretty big cone. And you can move slowly, and any enemy who gets trapped in that cone, you just bring them towards you to the coffin. And it looks so cool. So he pulls the souls of the living from his coffin, and he's CC immune at taking 50% reduced damage. So he also takes reduced damage, which is good. Enemy gods within range are pulled towards the coffin and take damage every 0.33 seconds. When an enemy god gets too close to the coffin, their soul is ripped out, causing them to be stunned, take a large amount of damage based on their total health, and gain max Hysteria. So they instantly apply max Hysteria. They get stunned if they get, they end up pulling into the coffin. Obviously, you can purify this in beads if you want, which would be a very good idea. The ability persists for 3.5 seconds or until an enemy god is pulled into the coffin. So if one enemy god hits, it's going to stop. If targets being pulled are above 30 Hysteria, the pull strength is increased on them. So that is the bonus effect for that. The damage per tick is 17 to 45, plus 6% of your magical power. So the theme with this is he does a lot of tick damage, it seems. Well, no, not really. Just this and his ultimate. The damage on the coffin hit is 140 to 420 at max rank, plus 50% of your magical power. So it's going to tick, 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 and do a big burst of damage at the end. Total health damage, 15%. Stun duration is 2 seconds. That's a long stun. Max, you get Hysteria per tick is 8, so you can get up to 80 Hysteria applied on them, and 70 is the max. So at that point, you're just overcapping, which is not a bad thing at all, because that just means when it decays over time, you're going to have a little more longer before the max Hysteria is actually gone. Mana cost goes from 70 to 90, and it has a 90-second cooldown. So that is Baron Samedi, obviously a mage. I'm pretty sure. It doesn't even say, actually, and I didn't watch the patch notes, but I'm going to go on a limb and say he's a mage, because I don't see what other class he could possibly be. And this is his recolor. It's called Red Rum Baron Samedi. Obviously, Red Rum is just murder backwards. First skin coming to this patch is Plague Lord Hades, so going with that Plague's theme. Izanami has one, and I think that's it. Is she the only other god that has one of these skins?
You know what's worse than the plague? Humanity itself!
I like that voice pack. It's really nice. Evil Spirits Bacchus. At first glance, I thought this was Zongquei, and I got excited, but no. No Zongquei skin yet.
Look at all these beating hearts. Little do they know, they will soon join the spirit world.
It's a nice voice pack as well. And then obviously we have Star Spangled Nike. You got to get some American skins in there.
I embody bravery, justice, and freedom. And so can you!
We really haven't had any Nike skins. That's good. She has the Conqueror one, and I think she has another, but I'm not sure. And then obviously Baron Samedi gets his Master skins. I love that they're doing the Master skins on release now rather than waiting for a patch. So we also have some new cosmetics, the Voodoo Loading Frame, the Voodoo Recall skin, and the Voodoo Global emote. We also have a Raw America announcer pack. That's going to be great. Constable Moose Jaw gets an announcer pack as well. These are the items coming to the Awesome chest here and coming to the Godlike chest. Fantasy Points store, get some new additions here. Bug fixes, I'm not going to go through all of these because I never do, and there's actually a lot. But if you want to, you can obviously pause it yourself and read through them. Medusa's Deathmatch, that's more bug fixes. I will go over the item bug fixes though. So, Stone of Binding no longer stacks if multiple gods buy the item. Evolved Hide of the Urchant, selling this evolved version will now remove shield stacks from you. I guess it didn't before. Fixed an issue where pushing or grabbing an enemy, Artemis, who was recently hit by an Artemis trap, would cause them to be pulled quickly back to the trap. Fix an issue where Vulcan's Inferno Cannon would be invisible on the Joust map while playing in Spanish or Portuguese language. Okay, it's probably the weirdest bug I've ever seen. Fix an issue where Morgan's items will not appear on the scoreboard when she used her ultimate. Are they ever going to have Morgan not bugged with her ultimate somehow in some way? I feel like she's just going to be removed from the game at this point, because there's never not a bug with her ult, it seems like. Zongquei fixed an issue where his passive meter wasn't accurately animating changes in soul stacks. On to item balances. Breastplate getting some changes here, as well as Silver Breastplate. So increase the cost from 500 to 600. Silver Breastplate gets an increase from 950 to 1050. Decrease the height of the Nemean line, the Breastplate of Valor, and Spectral Armor by 100 to keep them at the same price as previous batches. This is just trying to... starting build count. Yeah, okay. So the anti-warrior start practically. Gladiator Shield getting a buff, which I love because I know this was more of a Season 4 item. Late game Season 4. Or late game. Late in Season 4. I still get it in Season 5. I like it. So the fact that it's getting a buff is just great. So not a whole lot though. Up from 15 power to 20, but a buff is a buff. Rod of Asclepius, or Rod of Ass Claps as I like to call it. That's probably the first time I've ever actually called it Asclepius in about a year and a half, so that's a rare one. Decrease the health from 250 to 200 on it. Also decrease the movement speed from 10 to 7%. So this got some buffs a while ago, and they're just kind of trying to balance it out. Rod of Healing also adjusted that, so decreased from 150 to 100, and then 7% to 5%. Shaman's Ring, damage required to stack this item is now counted post-mitigation. Void Shield, decreased the cost from 2700 to 2600 and increased the health from 100 to 150. So we got Void Shield and Gladiator Shield getting some love for warriors there. Well, I guess not specifically warriors, but they could make probably the best use of it. AMC getting some nerfs. Oh, nerfs and buffs. So its ability no longer disarms enemies, bees obviously. The Hive, however, increased the attack speed buff. It used to be 10 to 30%, is now 10 to 40%. Movement speed used to be 5 to 25, is now 10 to 30. So I would say overall that's a buff. Although disarming with bees is actually pretty nice, but you know, with AMC not having any movement speed, that's just going to help him even more. Aphrodite, I'm going to guess some nerfs here. Yeah, decrease the magical power scaling of the heal from 15% per tick. 15% per tick, 12.5% per tick. Oh, to 12.5%. Okay, they didn't. Little typo there. So 90% down to 75% total. Apollo getting an interesting change here. I don't quite know the reasoning for it, but we'll see. Basically, enemies hit by the last tick of your ultimate are knocked up. It's a straight knock up and it's a low height. I don't know why. Actually, let's read this. So, the Hunter has fallen off heavily over the years. I mean, he has, but even the most powerful range of utility effects, the abilities to further strengthen this ability, regaining the effect a long time ago. Apollo's ultimate once again only up. Oh, once again. So I must have done that before. I just never knew that. Okay, well, that's going back to a change, I guess. Wheelix getting some love here, and I love this change. It's nothing huge, but I'm excited to see how well it really affects. So summon Suku, your strafe reduction, or your speed. Basically, when you're strafing with Suku, you move really slow. They're changing how slow it is. So changing the hard cap on movement speed from 175 to 225. So that is a big, big, big time buff there. Updated the ability description to show this is a speed cap, not percent reduction of speed. Gravity Surge also getting a buff with that. Decreased the cooldown, used to be 90 seconds flat. Now scales down to 70 seconds. So even more of an encouragement to upgrade that every time you can. Khepri getting some love too. Two of my three main gods. My three would be Khepri, Wheelix, and Chang'e. 2/3 have gotten love this patch, and I love it. Khepri's is amazing. I'm excited for this. Not only does Fortitude gets an increased radius from 30 to 40. Awesome. But his Abduct, he now gains 10 to 30 scaling, magical, and physical protections while holding an enemy god with Abduct. Thank you, Smite. Khepri main and back. I haven't played Khepri in a while, just because he's kind of fallen out, and I can't wait to get back into it now. Osiris getting, some buffs here. Increase the base damage from 60 to 240 is now 60 to 260. And then decrease the cooldown from 90 seconds to 75 seconds on his Lord of the Afterlife. Raw getting an increased cooldown on Searing Pain. It used to be 70 to 50 seconds, is now 80 to 60, so 10 seconds on each one. And then Morgan increased the movement speed on her Confusion. It used to be 20 to 40%, is now 30 to 40%. Tyr. Interesting change here. I'm excited to see I'm excited to see if this makes him OP or just doesn't do a whole lot, because I feel like it could go either way. His guard stance for Fearless used to really not do anything. It was more of a getaway, and you did a little bit of damage. Now, if you pass through him, it disarms the enemy god for 1.5 seconds. So if you're playing a Hunter in solo lane, have fun against Tyr. Guard stance damage is now separated from assault stance, and that's because guard stance damage is increased. It used to be 40 to 240. It's now 70 to 270. So that early game gonna go up a lot. Assault stance doesn't change. Shivalanki getting some nerfs, I'm assuming. Damage reduced or damage required to stack is now counted post mitigation on Dead of the Night. So kind of like Shaman's Ring. And then adjusted the bar icons to show difference between damage counter stacks and physical power buff stacks. And then his Darkest of the Nights increased the cooldown on it from 90 seconds to 100 seconds. And that is it for this video, guys. If you want to check out the patch notes for yourself, they are down in the description. I will be releasing the skin videos, obviously, like I always do whenever the PTS comes out. I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time, though. I had some complaints that I reverted to, me not talking in them, so I'm going to upload 2 videos per skin. The first one's going to be, a first look reaction of me talking and, going over the stuff like I used to. And then the second one is just going to be a skin preview, more shortened for the people that don't want to hear me talk. So be on the lookout for those videos when the PTS comes out. And as always, thank you for watching.